And there they go.
Second leg of Saturday's all stakes, all dirt pick 5 at Churchill Downs. We don't have to go too far, Mike. Race 7, this is the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, another one-turn main track event with a dozen boys. This time, they're all 3-year-olds, and most of them we're pretty familiar with. They failed at some point along the Kentucky Derby Trail, or in Jack Christopher's case, never even got a chance to try. He is the 2-1 favorite here from Post 5. He's undefeated in 2 starts. That Champagne Stakes victory last year had everybody hyped on him and thought maybe he could win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Misses the Juvenile, misses everything up until now. Hell of a place for you to return as a 3-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this race, it's really, do you trust Jack Christopher or not? And part of that question then becomes, do you trust the number that the Champagne brought back or not? Because that's a big question here, right? Obviously, the debut was very good. Horse went fast early, was able to kind of kick on and kick clear and get a big 92 buyer. Comes back in the Champagne and get this outrageous 102 buyer for running a 136 one-turn mile. Now, with the way Command Performance has come back, I want no part of Jack Christopher. I feel like this is just not the spot to bet him. I think the 2-1 is probably correct. You might even see a little lower than that, which to me is wild. Look, from a numbers perspective, this horse is a standout. And so you're really left with 2 options. Do you single Jack Christopher here, or do you chuck Jack Christopher here? And when I'm looking at those 2 options, and I see a 2-1 horse at 12-horse field with abundance of speed that hasn't been seen for a long time, that we've gotten sketchy reports about, that I don't trust the number in the last, that's going to get people to bet it, I'm going to chuck out Jack Christopher. So I'm going to start with the rail, and I'm going to go with Major General on top here. I think that the one horse can be able to sit a pretty practical trip, doesn't necessarily need the lead. That race, the Iroquois at Churchill last year specifically catches my eye, where we were able to stalk a 23-4, 47-4 opening half mile, sit in 5th, and then make a move around the turn. That's exactly what I'm looking for here as well. I like the fact that we had a nice progression from the Tampa Bay Derby, where this horse just had absolutely no chance after the start. Then dueled at Keeneland and the Lexington, and Tawny Port just flew on by. No one else really stayed up that was on the pace. So for my I like it when a horse like that is able to kind of stay forward and push the pace, and everyone else backed up. So for me, I'm going to go with the 1 Major General on top. And then my other must use, let's just go bombs away. I'm going to go to the 12 post. I'm going to go with O Captain, coming in from Florida, baby. Horse is 20-1 on the morning line, and I think this race just sets up for a collapse. I don't think O Captain wanted any part of a 1.16 or a 1.8. I think this is a one-turn horse. You go back to those first 2 races, got a 59 buyer to win our maiden, and then jumped up to a 71 first off the layoff as we got early into the 3-year-old season. Ran an 88, so a nice improvement, stepping up to a 1.16, and ran 3rd behind Simplification and in due time. Then comes back in the Florida Derby and actually runs pretty well. Is up close to that early pace, which was pretty swift, only 4 lengths back. Yes, and 6, but only 4 lengths back, 5 lengths back for 110, 110 3/4. And then able to close. Rosario found this horse good enough to ride. Now you're getting Gaffleone. I like the outside post here because you're going to have a ton of speed to the inside. If this thing collapses, I think O Captain is the horse that can pick up the pieces, a la Funny Duck, like that style of win, right? And I think this horse is better around 1 turn. I'm getting a killer price at 20-1.
Listen, but ever since Funny Duck won this in 2018, I'm not going to tell anybody not to play a long shot in this race. O Captain isn't for me, but again, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. He will definitely be coming late. My concern with him is that 3rd in the Fountain of Youth Stakes came because over half the field got taken out. He was well behind everybody when the accident happened in the far turn. And most of the jockeys stopped riding who were part of that and were still on their horses. So I felt that the 3rd was, okay, you were the best of the horses that still had some interest after that accident. But he definitely has the running style that if you think this is going to fall apart and a lot of horses are going to come back, which we've got a lot of horses that are trying this distance or this kind of setup for the first time, Mike, he's definitely fit enough. He's going to come running. So again, I'm not going to talk you off of it. He's just not for me. I did use Major General. My one big concern with him and why he wasn't a must-use for me, the rail with all that kickback that he's going to get. The breeding says he should handle running on the slot, but getting it thrown in his face from 11, not 11 horses, not all 11 will be in front of him, but there'll be a lot of horses that'll get in front of him if he doesn't get the lead, and I think Jack Christopher will do. I use Jack Christopher. This is the one time I will go again, not one time, because I do it sometimes. There's going to be the time where I use him and still spread. And everything that you said makes sense from a long-term perspective, right? If you're looking at your full year, your ROI, day by day, year over year, you've got to play the way Mike has been telling you to do this. You either single or go very short with Jack Christopher here, or you completely chuck and spread. I just have no idea what to do with him. And if the track gets muddy, he's by Munnings. That's only theoretically going to help him. But you named it. The horses that he beat in the Champagne: Command Performance, Wit, My Prankster, Gunite, Kavad. 2 of those are in this race. I'm not using either one of those horses. Nobody from that group today on May 4th makes you go, yeah, that's exciting. So with Jack Christopher, you've got some question marks. My top pick, and I have seen him thrown around in the chat a little bit, I'm going with Papa Cap, the number 3 horse. I'm going to have to scroll back up a little bit. I'm getting 6-1 on a horse that everybody who thought I was crazy for not playing Flavien Prat, don't worry. I got him at 6-1 now. We're good. This is a horse that's got tactical speed, and you're putting Flavien Prat aboard a tactical speed horse for the first time. I mean, come on. Like, what more do you want from that? If you remember Papa Cap from the Kentucky Derby Trail, he ran like a one-turn horse. And by that, what I mean is he showed speed early, but then there was no kick. When it was time to press on the gas off the turn, that second turn, he was just kind of empty. Grade 2 winner, going 1 turn. I really think this is one of those horses, Mike, that we're going to look back at it and say, bam, the Pat Day Mile, that's when he got back to what he was best at, which is 1 turn. I think the 6-1 is going to be great, and I think he's bred for the mud.
Yeah, he's one of my next 2 ups here. I think that Papa Cap makes a ton of sense. I think the 1 turn is what you're looking for. You go back to even like the Breeders' Cup race where he just kind of tried to chase home Carniche but couldn't quite get there. He makes a lot of sense at this distance. I think Papa Cap's definitely worth the use. I like the 6-1 price. I'm interested to see if we get the 6-1 price because I'm not sure if he's going to get more money or take more money on race day, but we'll have to kind of see how that goes. For me, the other next up was My Prankster. I actually am going to use the 11 here. I think he makes a lot of sense in this spot as well. I don't love the 4-1 price. I kind of agree on that. And I realized that My Prankster went down to Jack Christopher, but that was My Prankster's second race. We haven't seen Jack Christopher since then. We've got 4 additional data points from My Prankster since then. And we're getting second off the layoff, which I would like a lot more than first off the layoff. Old Homestead ran in that race. So did Surfer Dude, both pretty good horses. The horse didn't really break as well as I would have liked in that spot. Was breaking out of the 8 post that day and just kind of got in a weird spot around that first turn. I think this race sets up much better for him. I think a mile is about as far as My Prankster wants to go. But we have Flower Alley on the bottom side, Into Mischief on the top, so the distance really shouldn't be an issue. I love the fact we're getting Todd Pletcher, Luis Saez in a race where I think the jockeys are going to make a big difference, especially if you do have that speed up front. So I'm going to willing to swallow the 4-1 price on My Prankster because of how much I think Jack Christopher's going to get bet in this spot.
A long shot horse that you and I both used, and my buddy Curtis is, he's mentioned before, so I can't find it in the chat, Curtis. I went looking. The number 6, Teano Twist, 10-1. If you scratch off that last effort, Mike, at Keeneland, everything about, thank you, there it is. Everything about this horse tells you, at minimum, this is a great exotics horse at 10-1. He loves to come running late. He doesn't seem to necessarily have that sharp turn of foot to come up there and nail you for the win, but what if the pace collapses like we've been talking about? What if Jack Christopher doesn't handle and starts coming back to the horses here? You know, as long as this horse isn't 12 wide like he was at Keeneland, he's going to be coming. And he's by Practical Joke. If you remember Practical Joke's turn of foot, it was something that was just a thing of beauty. And if you get that style turn of foot coming in the stretch from this horse, I mean, he won a 6.5 furlong stakes here last fall. He was second to Epicenter in the Gunrunner Stakes, so good horses have been beating him. I think at 10-1, we're getting a fantastic value here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to piggyback on this because I think there's a couple other things. He's got a muddy form, right? I mean, you look at that last race. He broke out of the 12 post in that same race that we just discussed about My Prankster, the Lafayette at Keeneland on a wet, fast track. He was 8 wide into the lane, never had a prayer to make up the ground there. Almost looked like the jockey wrapped him up. Draw a line through that one. The 1-2 back, we were talking about Epicenter. How many turns do Practical Joke horses want to go, Magic?
1.
How many turns was he going against Epicenter?
2.
That makes that race even more impressive that he ran second behind Epicenter there. And then just from a handicapping perspective, when you have these buyers that are these high 80 buyers for their entire 2-year-old campaign, and then you come back first race back and you run a 91 buyer, that's such a logical setup to improve off it. And then you have a regression off it because of the 12 post, because of what happened to Keeneland. If you draw a line through that and say, we're going to improve off the 91, 10-1 looks like an absolute steal on Teano Twist. So I think you kind of have to use, oops, there goes my phone. I think you kind of have to use this horse here if you're going to play multi-race bets, especially if you're going to spread. I considered having this one higher up, but man, I think you kind of have to use this one from a multi-race perspective. And I got
Go ahead.
I say I have one other horse, so I'm going one more. I'm going 6 deep here. I think you stopped at 5. I'm going to use the 9 horse. It's been mentioned a couple times in the chat here, Trafalgar as well. This is a horse I kind of liked on the Derby Trail. Kind of got off it after the comp. But this is another horse where I think this 1 turn mile really sets up well. Broke his maiden here at Churchill, going 1 turn, had Rosario that day, was able to run an 81 buyer. We didn't see any progression at all into that 3-year-old season. That's really surprising, especially for Al Stall horses who generally do see a pretty good progression from 2nd to 3rd. I'm wondering if it's because this horse wants 1 turn and not 2. He wants to be a 1-turn closer. If you go back to that Churchill race where he was able to, as a maiden, break his maiden, coming from the back of the pack, pass multiple horses to get the job done, and I'm talking about a race that I think can collapse, that's a great race to point back to and say, hey, we're getting back to what we want to do, and we're doing it at the track we've won at before with a race setup that is exactly how we set up last time. I'll take 20-1 on that horse here in a spread race for me.
And kind of going with Charles' comment here, it's a good reference race for how the Derby plays out. He is exiting, Trafalgar that is exiting the fairground circuit, which is either, for me, the number 1 or number 1A circuit from the whole Derby Trail. So sure, he didn't beat Epicenter in the 2 times that he faced him, but he was facing what I think were the better horses, or some of the best horses from the Derby Trail. I consider Trafalgar. I just think this is still a little too much, but I agree with, I think he being by Lord Nelson, he's got the sprint pedigree on the top. Dixie Union underneath says a little bit of stamina, so a mile 7 furlongs should be right within this horse's wheelhouse. I'm not going to use him. I don't think that he's quite good enough to beat every horse that I'm using, but an interesting one to look forward to. By the way, the very first stable him up horse I ever had was Trafalgar. He was 2nd to Classic Causeway, and I was so sure he was going to win, and I told everybody about him. That's why he was 4-5 when he broke his maiden next out.
Oh, that's why. It was you. Huh?
That's why.
I do remember.
He was the only horse who closed in that race in his maiden debut, and I was, one of many to saw that.
You did use him as your stable up. I do remember that. And I think this horse it's just one of those where if you're spreading in these races, get a little creative with some of your plays. Don't just pick the next 3 favorites, things like that. Take some swings, go 5 or 6 deep, try and find some prices. And in this case, I think if you like Doppelganger, I guess you could use Doppelganger at 6-1, but there's a lot of different routes. I don't hate Howling Time at 30-1. This is also a race where if you want to single later, I wouldn't hate hitting the all button here. Like there's a couple ways. Like if you single the Derby, you could hit the all button here, and my ticket would cost the exact same. Because going from 2-1 and going 6-12 is the exact same cost.
If you shove and you hit the all button in one race, make it the Pat Day Mile. We say that Jack Christopher will win at 9-5, but no, really, I think this is the race where you have some funny duck. I actually have I forgot a 5th horse, and I'll do real quick. And it's 30-1, and that's the 2 trademark for Rafael Bejarano and Vicky Oliver. Horse is 2 for 2 at Churchill Downs. Both times are going 8.5 furlongs, so 2 turns and slightly farther, but the horse did it setting a pressured early pace and having enough stamina to hold on when it really mattered. That matters because now we're cutting back to a 1-turn mile. I assume this horse will probably be sent because the best races on this horse's form, forwardly placed. Send this horse, try and go after Jack Christopher, force him to show his fitness, his stamina. Can he handle a 1-turn mile after 6, 7, 8 months that he's been gone? If you think there's any question about that, you as trademark and Rafael Bejarano, you need to send the shit out of that horse. And if he pushes him, when it comes down to it at the top of the stretch, who's got the better stamina, who's in form, who's cutting back, and who's trying to stretch out? All of those things line up for Jack Christopher bad. Trademark at 30-1, good. So at 30-1, again, funny duck situation. This horse, look out.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. At the price, and the fact that we have more stamina and all the negatives on the Jack Christopher train, all of that makes sense to me as to why you'd use someone like Trademark. And yes, Mike, I just did say a Roman horse was usable at 30-1. 30-1. That is the key of why that is when you use Dale Romans.
This has been a presentation of RacingDudes.com, your destination for all things horse racing and sports betting. Whether you want free winners, expert insider picks, up-to-the-minute trackside weather reports, or podcasts and videos for bettors of all skill levels, never make another wager without visiting the Racing Dudes. First,